Today, in Miami-Dade County, roughly 800 people are living on the streets. They are without homes and seemingly without hope. But there is another group of people. They too will be on the streets today. They know exactly where the homeless are.
This is the area we call 13 and First, under the bridge here.
They know what the homeless are doing.
There's a lot of activity. They congregate here, they feed here, they drug here, you know.
And they know virtually each one of the homeless by name.
Oh, there's Twin.
There goes Twin right here, LaToya.
We know her, she's...
Yeah.
These are the people charged with befriending, caring for, and convincing the homeless to come in off the streets.
Buddy, I see you look better today, man. Yesterday when I see you, man, I'm all right. How y'all? Everybody all right? She's smiling. Must be a good day.
No, she's ill. She's ill.
You're not feeling good?
She's ill.
You want to try and get to the hospital?
Wayne and Eric are just two of the many homeless outreach workers who go out onto the streets every day to rescue the homeless. For them, the job is difficult and dangerous. Yet at the same time, it is an all-consuming passion.
Well, like I was saying, I live in the same area where I work, which sometimes, you know, people do come around and, well, they get a better sense of, well, Wayne really trying to help us, you know.
Look, I know this young man. I met him with Wayne when he first got on the street. And you know what he said to us? He said, I can't go in with you because I just got addicted to drugs. His girlfriend got him addicted to it, 19 years old, you remember, right?
Oh.
19 years old, addicted to crack, and he's been on the street now 2 years.
The homeless outreach workers remove no one by force. Instead, they forge relationships and build trust in order to convince people to come off the streets on their own. It is the more difficult way of doing things, but their methods and their proven success are just some of the components that make Miami-Dade County a national model for dealing with homeless individuals today. This story, though, doesn't start today. It started 20 years ago in a very different time. The year was 1992, and Miami faced a homeless crisis, unlike anything we see today. Alex Pinellas was a young commissioner at the time. He would go on to become mayor, and he remembers that time well.
It was unbelievable. I mean, you would walk under the bridges, especially not far from where my office was at the county building, literally not far from my office, and you would see towns, villages, hundreds of these structures which probably were unsafe. Some of them seemed to have some systems of running water and electricity. I mean, it was incredible. And this was the rule, not the exception. And you would see that just about under every major highway in the downtown area. And then as you moved a little bit towards the water, on the banks of the Miami River, on the banks of Biscayne Bay, you would see literally waterfront structures where people were living, washing their clothes, you know, in the river or in the bay. This was real.
Sergio Gonzalez, who would become the Homeless Trust's first executive director, was involved in executing the plan to deal with the enormous homeless problem, both on a short and long-term basis.
And it was ironic because behind the same view you see here, obviously a little different skyline, but the beauty of the bay, the beauty of the cruise ships behind you, and here, steps away from here, you had hundreds, probably thousands at some point of homeless folks living in encampments, basically with self-made shelters out of card box, out of plywood, and it was really a community.
During the same time frame, a federal class action lawsuit centered on how police could treat homeless people was grinding its way through the legal system. Even though the case was filed back in 1988, a ruling on November 16, 1992 would help shape how Miami would go about helping the homeless.
Judge Adkins, who issued the order at the time, was dead on when he said that the powers to be didn't give people an alternative to living on the street. So if you're not giving them an alternative, don't bother them if they're on the street.
In practical terms, this court ruling meant the city could not utilize police as the main form of getting homeless off the streets. So local leaders got to work on alternatives. First through the Governor's Commission on Homelessness, and then in pushing for a local tax and a local plan. The man to whom then Governor Lawton Chiles turned to lead this effort was the former CEO of Knight Ridder newspapers, Alva Chapman. Osmond Howe was an attorney at the time and a philanthropist in his own right. He was no stranger to Alva's get-it-done style.
And when you talk to Alva, you could never say no, because Alva was the consummate leader. He had a plan, he supported you 1,000%, and he was open-minded as to how we were going to solve this problem. And between Rabbi Shift and Ray Good and Armando Codina and many other local leaders, we began articulating what this place would actually do.
The short-term plan was self-evident. Someone needed to go into unsanitary and often dangerous encampments to convince the homeless to accept housing and services.
Here, this was kind of a hands-off. I'm not sure that even law enforcement went into this encampment here in Watson Island. There was actually a mayor of the encampment, and basically for us to go in, which we did on occasions, we would have to come to the door or the gate of the encampment, talk to the mayor, who basically gave you the green light or not to go in and look at the encampment, try to do some outreach and really understand what was going on.
Going into the encampments not only took knowledge and courage, it also took patience and a deep sense of empathy. And it was those qualities that made all the difference.
You know, many folks think that the leadership and some of us that were involved in developing this plan were really visionaries and in some cases heroes for this, but the real heroes of developing this solution were the outreach workers that would go out every day and night, many of them spending all night under the bridges with the homeless to try to convince them to come in. Without them, without the outreach workers that really appealed to the homeless folks, there would have been no plan. No plan would have been successful.
And that was the key, effective outreach. Today, this approach is modeled throughout the nation, but then it was a relatively new concept. The results here in Miami-Dade produced an enormous amount of data and quantifiable success. Manny Saria, a behavioral health professional and an expert in homeless issues, explains why.
So in the behavioral health world, they call that motivational interviewing. So you want that individual to be behind the wheel and making decisions. That's what's going to stick. If you force somebody to do something, they're likely to comply immediately, but it's not their goal or their long-term commitment to do that. So they might leave that area for that night, but they might end up homeless somewhere else, and because it's not part of their long-term goal. But whereas you find out what the individual wants, and then you make that happen, then you're doing what they want, and they're likely to stick to it.
Like the outreach workers before them, Eric and Wayne form relationships with the kinds of people that many of us choose to ignore, or worse, run away from. People like Tico Kelly.
It's been a long story. When I was living with my mom at North Miami Avenue, she was stressing about me down with AIDS, so she had lost her job, and then I started smoking crack and shit. Then I'm back out here on the streets.
Wayne has been talking with Tico for some time. Each time he offered help, Tico, for one reason or another, had refused. Because of his condition and this long-term relationship, Tico is a priority. And today, instead of refusing help, Tico gives Wayne and Eric a radically different response.
Chapman 1. That'll work for you?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
That's the one you want?
Yeah.
I got you. In 1 second.
Once help is accepted, the outreach workers move quickly before the homeless individual has a chance to change his or her
What I'm trying
mind.
to do is place you today.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah, sure as the sunshine in the east.
One time.
How about right now?
Right now?
Right now.
It's a tense process. It often starts with the homeless person being enthusiastic, and then, during transit, that person questions the decision. This is where the relationship that the outreach worker has formed with the homeless person is most tested.
I don't want to go there and they kick me out.
Listen,
Come
man,
on.
listen, you talking to me. This is no.
No, I don't want y'all to try to make money
bro,
off
I
me,
already
man.
got, bro, I already got the bed.
Oh, man.
I already got the bed.
I got a
man.
bed for sure.
I just told you that.
we got you.
All right, you ain't get the bed smack me.
Hey.
That's our show.
Even if you do get the bed, let me slap him.
All right.
All right. No, man, don't
It
make
just
him
be
hit me.
too many people be here. They talk too much.
Who, people?
Don't worry about people, man. What are you here for?
Listen, I want you
Exactly,
to focus
for
on
you.
you. It's for all this is for you.
Don't worry about other people, bro. Welcome home. This is Wayne.
Yeah. You gonna take care of me?
Hell yeah.
From here, Tico will not only be given a bed, but he will be surrounded with services. A team of professionals will help address his addiction, his medical condition, and all of the underlying reasons for his homelessness. Their goal is to get him back on track, to being permanently housed and a productive citizen.
So how was your day today?
Great.
Yes.
Anita went through the same process and is a testament to the results.
And that night, I was walking and I was like, I'm looking at all the people walking by, holding hands, laughing with each other. I'm looking at the high rises, you know, how the TV glares and everybody snuggled in their beds, you know. I wanted that, you know, so I just decided to stop. I had to. I got into the hack. The green shirts got me into the hack at 2 o'clock that morning. When I got in there, I promised God, I promised myself, and I promised them that everything was gonna change. All I can say is that God in better way, you know, they literally say, and the green shirt saved my life.
Still, not every encounter ends in a placement. Not every homeless person takes the opportunity to come off the street. The chronically homeless are the ones who spend years on the street, refusing help and shunning the homeless outreach workers.
To every 10 person you approach, 7 of them wants the help. You might have 3 that don't. Like for instance, this gentleman, he suffered from mental illness. That's as much as he will say to you, nothing, you know? And if we could get him yesterday, we want to get him yesterday.
But just because these individuals reject the homeless outreach workers, that doesn't mean the outreach workers are out of options.
Most of the people they offer help to get, accept it. But the few that don't, it's because of underlying issues, either with trauma, substance use, or serious mental illness, paranoia, and other thoughts that might be going through their minds. They have their package, and they go and see somebody, and they say, "Would you like to come to a shelter? We'd like to end your homelessness." And they're more likely than not going to get a positive response from the individual. When they don't is when they pick up the phone and call me.
Braulio is one of these people, chronically homeless. He's lived on the streets for more than 10 years.
No, every day he coming. Oh yeah, but somebody go to Chester.
Under this bridge has been his home, and he has refused assistance hundreds of times. That is until Manny's team of specialists finally convinced him to come in.
Me no like stay in Chester. Chester no give nothing.
2 days after this film was shot, Braulio moved into his own apartment.
It takes that kind of dealing with, illogical thoughts about housing. It takes that kind of, I don't want to quit drugs and alcohol, and I'm afraid that you're going to somehow get in the way of that, It takes that kind of believing in that we're low demand and that we're going to house you, no matter what.
In this plan that was created more than 20 years ago, through desperation, determination, knowledge, and compassion, even the most difficult to reach are reachable. Still, for Wayne and Eric, there are hundreds of people on the street that need their help. And the most important of them all is whomever they happen to be talking to at the moment.
Glenn, I'm glad to help, though, man. Thanks for your patience, buddy. You waited on me and you got the bed now, okay? All right.
Today in Miami, there are too many people living on the streets. But through the tireless work of Wayne, Eric, and all of the homeless outreach workers throughout Miami, Miami-Dade County, and Miami Beach, and because of a legacy left by men and women determined to end homelessness in Miami, there will be fewer souls on the streets tomorrow.
My name is Charles Bolin. I was homeless for about 2 years. Through the outreach helper of Cosmo Jordan, I was able to get shelter and treatment.
My name is Mark. I've been on the streets on and off since I've been 15 years old, all my life. I've really never had a home. And that person that helped me was Darren.
My name is Anita Martin. I was on the street for 15 years, and the person that brought me in was Darren Morris.
Okay, my name is Wayne Davis. I've been in the street, you could say approximately about 8-9 years, hardcore guy getting high. And the guy next to me here is now my assistant director in the program, but he's the one that was in outreach and got me off the street. Thanks to the grace of God, I never looked back.